I was kind of nervous to watch the first episode of The Animals of Farthing Wood. That being said, I have very fond memories of this show. I used to watch it a lot growing up. I had all of the VHS tapes. They might still be at my grandmother's house. I'm not 100% sure. But I do have fond memories of it. But I also remember it being quite harrowing. And I wanted to watch the first episode, as I'm currently watching all of the first episodes of the TV shows that I grew up with, one of which, of course, being Animals of Farthing Wood. And I decided to watch it, but I was concerned it would be emotional. I'm pleased to say the first episode isn't actually that emotional, but it is very well done. And there's one bit that made me laugh because the memories for me with this weren't that strong in terms of specific characters or specific moments, but there was one bit that really stood out to me and it made me laugh because it's funny and it was also a beautiful memory that I'd completely forgotten about. I will mention that though in a little bit. There will be spoilers as I talk about what happens in this, but to be fair, there's not a tremendous amount that does happen. And I was surprised to learn, I couldn't remember this, I was surprised to learn that it's not just a series of individual stories. It seems like, initially at least, we have this overarching narrative that begins in the first episode. The first episode is called The Wood in Danger, and the animals realise that the water has dried up, their trees are being destroyed, all, of course, because of humans. And they have to try and find a way to rectify this problem, and they realise that they need to find a new home. And that is, of course, what part of the story is about. Now, they don't actually set off on this journey in this episode. Well, they kind of do towards the end, but this is all about them establishing that this is a really big problem and they need to work together to try and find a way forward. And we have all of these animals coming together. And it's actually kind of clever because, and this is the bit that made me laugh, but they actually do acknowledge that a lot of these animals are actually prey and predator, and a lot of them wouldn't survive a journey together. So Badger makes them declare that they're not going to feast on one another because in reality, some of those animals might eat some of the other animals. And I like the fact that they're kind of saying, we know that this might not actually work in reality. We're going to get around it by making them declare this. And Badger makes them put up their paws and say, I, name of animal. And Toad replied, I, name of animal. And that's the bit that I remembered so well. That's the only bit in this episode that really came flooding back to me, but it made me laugh. And it doesn't surprise me that that did kind of stick in my mind all of these years. I think it's a really strong start to the series. We very quickly establish the narrative. We get to meet all of the main characters and find out what they're like, watching them interacting with each other. We have several different personalities. We have some that are a lot more serious characters than others, and some that are maybe going to be a little bit more lighthearted. And I think it's a really solid way to begin the journey. The animation is stunning. The animation is something that I've always absolutely loved. And needless to say, that hasn't changed. That's definitely still the case. The Wood in Danger is a brilliant start to the Animals of Farthing Wood. It was not as emotional as I had feared. I do remember a few specific kind of harrowing scenes here and there, but not from this episode. So it's not the most traumatizing start, but a definitely very strong start, very sweet start, beautifully animated, really nice introduction to the characters. I don't know if I'm going to watch any more, not because it's not good, because it is, but because I think it does get rather emotional. Maybe one day, maybe at some point, but for now, I'm happy to have rewatched the first episode, rediscovered I, Name of Animal, which is just an absolute joy. And it's nice to have that little bit of comedy in there as well, because it is heavy. It's a very heavy topic, it's a very heavy series, but absolutely worth it. And this first episode is such a brilliant start.